welcome back to Belmont Bunch. This week, we're talking about the Islanders' playoff percentages. Guys, what did you think about the Islanders' past three games and clinching this week?
So we had three games since we last talked. First one was Saturday against the Philadelphia Flyers. This one I was extremely nervous about, given that we basically threw away our season to Columbus and Buffalo. But watching that game, it was pretty comforting. I thought we looked good. We had the better chances. We got rewarded for them. I think my main takeaway from that game was Samuel Bolduc has really good potential on this team.
To be continued.
Things changed, yeah. But it was a good game. Sorokin got a shutout, I believe. Maybe I'm remembering incorrectly, but
Nope, you're correct. Shutout.
we looked great. I mean, I don't want to go into too much detail about that one. If you guys have any thoughts about it.
No, yeah, that was just a complete took care of business game. Brock Nelson looked great. That's something that would stay a theme. Yeah, just a really good team win. They got ahead when they needed to. I think the important thing in the two games they won this week was they got the first goal and it let them play their style a little bit more. You know, when they give up the first goal, I feel like we're not a team that wants to chase the game very much. And that was a lot harder without Barzal. Maybe that'll be easier in the playoffs. You know, going down 1-0 won't be the death sentence that it kind of feels like sometimes. So yeah, that's something I'm keeping an eye on. And
I think we could keep on. I think we can keep on relying on how amazing we are in the third period throughout the playoff, and just coast on that, and that'll get us to the Stanley Cup.
All right. Yeah. Don't show up for 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Just hope you don't.
So I see we're giving bad advice today.
Well, next game we had was in Washington, last road game of the year. I mean, let's be real, I was nervous for all these, but they put in Darcy Kemper in net, so I guess they were trying to play spoiler for us. And did they ever play spoiler? We had the worst first minute of any game. Probably I can remember giving up 2 goals that were not impressive at all. The first one, I think Dylan Strome had it. He was wide open.
Yep.
No one really wanted to strip the puck. And then the second one, I think might have been Sandin. He just floated the puck towards the net. They say some pucks are, or some goals are seeing eye shots. Yeah, I'd say that's that one. So yeah, like going down 2-0 for this team, yikes. And they never were able to come back. They went down 3-0. I thought they were the better team at some points during the game, but Kemper had all the answers for them. They were able to crack through in the late stages of the game, but ultimately with the empty netters, it was too little too late, and we lost control of our playoff destiny with that loss.
And I think for a lot of people that felt like the season ended. I know for me, I was playing all the scenarios in my head after that game. To talk about the game, they just didn't that's a big indictment on both the players and the coach that you don't show up in the game like that. And they just didn't show up for the first, like you said, they did grow into the game. It wasn't like completely awful. It was pretty bad. And the tough thing was, so that first goal, Adam Pelech, if you go back to that replay, really just not a strong play. He fished it out of the feet of one of the Washington players, but he didn't hit it away with any sort of authority. There was no like real clearing attempt. He just backhanded it right to Dylan Strome, and Dylan Strome just got to absolutely rip it. And it's not really much you could do if you're Sorokin on that one. The second one, like you said, it floated to the net. This is why you want to just put pucks on net, because the goalie can't make a mistake if you don't make him make a mistake, unless he goes out to play the puck like a moron. But yeah, that was the first goal in a while that I was not happy with Sorokin on. But it's not like the team really showed up anyway, and probably weren't going to win this game even if Ilya makes that save. It probably makes it a little bit easier. I feel like you give up a goal in the first minute, that's one thing. You give up 2 in the first minute. It's not great, especially because there's a lot of pressure on you. On top of, like in a normal game, it's tough to come back from that. When all the pressure is on you and you know that you have to get a point to keep control of your destiny. They did push late. That third goal was a little bit fluky because Pelech tripped over a loose stick. There's not much you could do there, but they also, like every Islander, like was puck watching and didn't cover the slot after the puck got down low. So yeah, just a lack of attention to detail. And basically everything that I'm saying wrong about this game, too little, too late with the push, really bad start. Kind of the opposite for the Montreal game. Like the Montreal game, you could tell that I feel like they showed up for that one. It does scare me that it took them watching Pittsburgh, handing us our fate back, for them to like really button down. But yeah, I guess to move into the Montreal game, what did you guys think? What were you thinking early on? Like, how nervous were you guys? Because I was there and I had a fun experience, like a game day experience. But I want to hear what you guys have to say about that game first.
Yeah, I'll just say quickly. I mean, definitely, it's probably trivial to say that like the most nerve-wracking game of the season. Like the whole entire season.
Game of the season. Guys, this could be the biggest game of the season.
Yeah. So I mean, I also think it was safe to say this past week was the biggest week of the season. But regardless, the nerves going into the game were huge. But then, I mean, I thought they brought like they were playing like as hard as they could throughout the whole game. There was no point in the game where I thought like, oh wow, they're really. But they also scored first, so like I think that definitely took a little bit of the weight off.
Yeah,
and then they were
really
basically
a lot of pressure.
Yeah, exactly. Like in the beginning of the game, you don't know if it's like the whole ice is just going to open up and then everybody, it's going to be like you're going to be behind by 2 goals or something like that.
Yeah.
So so it definitely took the pressure off right away with Nelson scoring. I thought like as soon as he got the second goal, which was in the second period, I thought this was going to be a hat trick. That would be an amazing way to close out the season, but no. Yeah. But either way, I mean, Fasching scores, which is huge. Like, I mean, he's becoming a staple if he's not already.
Yeah, and then, he was excellent. He was.
I really thought the whole team was excellent. And if that's how we play in the playoffs, then I think we'll talk about that later. But I think we actually have a chance.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree.
So, Sterling, what did you think?
I just heard. Sorry, because I'm at my parents' house for the weekend, and I just heard my mom cheering the dog, saying he pooped. So I wonder if that'll be in the background somewhere. But anyway, yes, Sterling.
I didn't hear that. That end of the third period, I couldn't help but look up Brock's stats, and I noticed he was sitting on 75 points. His career year was last year with 59 or 51 or 59, one of those. But he was on 36 goals and he got 37 last year. So when he had that chance right out in the slot and just like whiffed, I don't know if he whiffed on it or if he was trying to go 5-hole. That was tough. But before the game, I was thinking this is an opportunity probably to witness my favorite regular season game of all time, or to be heartbroken because there's no way Pittsburgh loses to Chicago and Columbus, right? But so I thought we pretty much dominated the game. Not to say that Montreal didn't have their chances. I think with some more puck luck and they actually win the game. But we had chances too that I thought Montembeault looked pretty good, even though he gave up 4 goals. The goals we did score maybe were a little suspect besides the deflections. Like, I know Nelson has a great shot, but you think Montembeault wants that one back. But regardless, the Islanders were playing with our emotions by giving Montreal life multiple times in this game. But at the end of the day, they got their 2 points, clinching them a spot in the playoffs for the first time since 2016 without Leo Komarov.
I was going to say, like,
yeah,
that's great.
I thought you were going to say since like a full normal season, a full regular season or something.
Well, that's also something to bring up. It's been since 2019, and I think I've said multiple times on this podcast, 2020, 2021, maybe we got lucky by COVID, but I'm feeling better about those teams now that it's mostly the same core, let's be real. Now that they've shown just barely, but they can do it in a full season.
Yeah, I was going to say this last week, and I think I forgot to, so I want to bring it up now because it kind of fits into this conversation. I wonder because in those years where the season was shortened, the Barry Trotz system is so demanding, and I think it was pretty clear the Islanders were playing a much more wide open style most of the year until we really like started to put it together late. Probably over the last I would say since the January, February started to lock it down a little bit. And I wonder if it was easier on our guys to start the year playing a different style. Maybe it wasn't as demanding early on. I know you would think high flying style, wouldn't that be more demanding? But the Islanders, they didn't check as closely early on. They weren't as good defensively early on, and they buttoned it down as the year went on. I wonder if it helped that the first half of the season they went with a different style, and maybe they didn't get worn down because they definitely right now they're playing more of the Barry Trotz style for sure. And I thought we saw that a lot in the Montreal game because it was the bottom six that played a really key role in trying to make things tough for Montreal getting up ice. Our defensemen I thought were kind of sloppy. The obvious guy to pick out is Samuel Bolduc. Had a really bad giveaway that led to, or did it lead? Was that the one that led to? No, sorry. Dobson got picked off on the first goal. He just got stripped from behind, and that's something. Dobson is, a very slender guy. I want to see him maybe build up a little bit of muscle over the summer so that it doesn't seem so easy for him to get stripped of the puck. In his own zone, it's an adventure at times. In the offensive zone, he's got assists in 4 straight games, and he's had some really good passes. So really, I just want to see him focus a little bit on the defensive game a little bit more. Who else? I thought that Pelly got walked twice early in the Montreal game. He did I didn't notice anything bad after that, but that was alarming early on. He did, go back to having his normal game. And obviously, Samuel Bolduc, he had a really bad giveaway in the first period that didn't lead to a goal, but it was obviously his lack of effort on the Nick Suzuki shorthanded goal that kept Montreal in the game because we were starting to put that away. We get that third goal. The team's playing pretty well. It's a little bit sloppy, but offensively getting chances and out-chancing Montreal by a lot. We ended up out-shooting them by double. I thought we played a really good third, so that's good to see, the team put it together in the third. That mistake, though, by Samuel Bolduc cost him the whole third. I don't think he took a shift in the third period. And honestly, at the end, after that goal that, he didn't get it in front of Nick Suzuki and he didn't skate hard enough on, if I were the coach, yeah, and this would be a bad thing because then I get attacked by the media, Lane Lambert, would have been within his rights to just tell him to go straight to the locker room. Straight off the bench. It was that bad. And it's a huge game and you can't afford that. So I think he's cost himself a game 1 role because we know Romanov's not going to play. We found that out today in game 1. And so I think it's going to be Wotherspoon is my guess. Unless Dennis Seidenberg, who's training with the team, wants to play on a PTO in the playoffs. I think Wotherspoon's going to get a shot. You can't have mistakes like that, especially in the playoffs. That was basically a playoff game the other day. Yeah. So, he's still young. I'm not saying it's over for Samuel Bolduc. It's Jover, the Joe Biden. But at this current moment, they can't afford that. And it's funny because you're just swapping to another rookie, or not rookie, but a young guy with not a lot of NHL experience. In Wotherspoon, but I think I think at this point you just can't watch that again. You can't. If I see that happen in the playoffs, I'm gonna be very sad.
Yeah, we're definitely going to talk about it on the podcast.
Yes.
And he'll be so ashamed.
But Brock, the two guys that stuck out to me, Brock, great effort. That wrist shot is just lethal. We saw it at the All-Star game in the accuracy competition. Islander fans have known that he can do that. He had a great year. 75 points, 36 goals. Really, really has grown. Every year since the first year of Trotz has become like a legit great player for the Islanders. And the other player for me, I already said Hudson Fasching. The effort was fantastic. The forechecking, he even showed off the hands. Like, he's a lot more skilled of a player than I would have ever thought coming into the season and coming into like him joining the team. He's been a guy that I've known as a 73 overall in NHL 22, and I pick him up and I put him on my AHL team. What a year for him. Very, very impressed. Really looking forward. I think his style of play is going to be great in the playoffs. It's going to be like having like a prime member of our identity line. And our identity line, by the way, has been playing pretty well. Like, defensively, I'm not seeing lapses. They're keeping teams hemmed in their own zone. They're firing on all cylinders right now. I'm hyped. You know, the bottom six is really good at the moment, with the fourth line being so good. Fasching and Parise as the wingers on that third line is fantastic right now. And now we get Matt Barzal back that can really could spike Bo Horvat scoring way back up. It's the perfect timing. And, you know, I guess the only thing to be worried about at the moment is like hoping that we didn't overplay Sorokin down the stretch. And we didn't really have a choice, you know? Like, you just got to, when you have a goalie that good, and every game ends up mattering as much as it did, we had to play him as much as he did. Maybe that's what led to the bad goal in the Washington game. But he locked it down. He was not at fault for either goal in the Montreal game. He looked good in that game. He'll have time to rest now, as we start on Monday, so he's got a few days. So yeah, that's like the only warning sign I see coming into the playoffs that I'm worried about. Otherwise, I think we're going in decent shape, like health wise. I'd love if we had Romanov, I'd feel a lot better. But you know, and I think Sebastian Aho has been playing better recently. If Tyler Wotherspoon, or if it comes back to Bolduc, can just avoid turnovers, they're probably not going to play a lot. They're probably going to play very sheltered minutes. Then this team has a real shot at beating Carolina. And I guess we'll move into you guys tell me a little bit more about, did anybody stick out to you other than the two guys that I talked about in the Montreal game that you guys were really happy with?
I just have one quick thing to say, and that is, actually, Sterling, you pointed this out, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago. Matt Martin did not break his point record.
Yeah,
I was so hoping for that he would, but he's stuck at 19.
Yeah, that's tough.
That's really the only thing I wanted to point out.
I mean, good numbers from a fourth liner.
Well, that's why I thought about it, because you said they were firing all cylinders, and it's insane. And we've also talked about it before, how the bottom six and I guess like everybody, the second through fourth lines have all stepped up in the absence of Matt Barzal. So yes, it's been spectacular, and it's like you hope that keeps up, and then by adding Matt back, it's like bam, everything, like everybody's firing on all cylinders. So hopefully that happens. That's like best case scenario. But I don't know. I always worry that sometimes adding a key player like that back in could kind of like, force everybody else to play that's like the way that they want to play a little bit better. Does that make sense? I always say
like
this
a
about
chemistry thing.
Kind of like a chemistry thing. Yeah, I guess. Like I always say it about Washington, like Washington beats the Islanders when Ovechkin is not playing. Like, and it's like Ovechkin probably just has so much, like sway about how like the team's going to play, like and the chemistry on the team, like who's going to feed him the puck and all that stuff, that it's like, and this is all complete speculation on my part, that it's all, like it will ultimately change the way that they're playing. And so in some cases, like that actually hurts them. Players might not be playing as hard, or good players might not even be getting as much ice time because like of who Ovi wants to play with.
Well, the good thing about Barzal coming back is, oh goodness, our power play is terrible. So that
That's
should
true.
help that because it's something that I noticed in the Montreal game the other day, and we did get a power play goal late in that game. And also, I think it was really big for Anders Lee to have one more big goal before the end of the year. He's been a guy that I don't think he's been playing poorly. I haven't noticed him as much. But that was a big goal. Hopefully, that gets his confidence going into the playoffs, and especially getting a line mate like Matt Barzal back. So that first line is going to go from probably it was their worst line for a while. No offense at all to Simon Holmstrom. I think he started to grow into that role as time went on. But it's just a completely different game having Matt Barzal playing with Bo Horvat. We saw glimpses early on before Barzy got hurt, and Horvat looked real good when he had Barzy with him. So I'm very excited. I think the team can roll 4 very good lines if Barzy comes back and looks good. Yeah, there's a lot of hope right now. Very positive stuff.
The only place to go is down.
Don't do that. Well, look, I mean, I'm already hoping for an extension for Engvall. Engvall ended up being a great acquisition.
Mm-hmm.
I think, there are still going to be people that are 50-50 or just totally against the Horvat trade, but I think you have to reserve judgment until he's not playing with, Simon Holmstrom and Anders Lee. I still don't know if Anders Lee really fits chemistry-wise with Bo Horvat. Horvat's a finisher. Lee is a finisher. You got Barzal on that line. They're different types of finishers because, they're both good at deflections. That's for sure. But I think Horvat is a little bit more dynamic of a skater, can drive play a little bit more on his own. But we'll see. With Barzy feeding you, that could make things a lot better. Should.
Mm-hmm.
But is there a guy on the team right now that you look at and you think he's primed for a really good series against Carolina?
Interesting. I'm gonna go with Kyle Palmieri. I think has that potential. Obviously, the playoff beard's making a return.
Yes, that'll be back today.
Yeah,
he grows that stuff so quick.
He's been really good as of late. Maybe not the past week or so, but I think he's been half a point per game or so since coming back. I think you should watch out for him, especially if the power play gets going. He'll be involved with that.
Mm-hmm. So I'm keeping an eye on Brock Nelson at obviously. So I think the player I really want to highlight is Zach Parise because the work ethic on this guy is just unbelievable. But I quickly want to make a joke because Brock Nelson, if you score in this series, do not tap the goalie's helmet. We have been there. We have seen what happens. Don't do that. So just getting out ahead of that. But yeah, I think Zach Parise for me is the could be an X factor. He, the amount of times this year he got in on a forecheck 1 versus 2 and won it and gave us a chance. I think that's going to be really big. I think goals are going to be in a real premium in the series because you've got 2 of the top 5 defenses in the league. And teams that, Carolina minus Svechnikov, scoring wise, it's been a little bit tougher. I'm watching out for Martin Nikas for Carolina. He's really stepped up this year. So yeah, that's a player I'm keeping an eye on. I don't think the Carolina goaltending is why their goals against is so good. I actually, in preparation for the bracket that I'm preparing, wrote down every team's numbers and everything. And Carolina has 2.55 goals against on the year. That's amazing. But their goaltending only has a .907 save percentage, which is just fine. So for me, it's the defense. It's not really I don't know if Freddie Anderson's good, but man, he gets hurt so often. Antti Ranta also gets hurt a lot. If a goalie gets hurt in the series, the Islanders become the favorites, I think.
Well, I'm afraid of that because of last time. Curtis McElhinney.
That name, PTSD, you're right. That was brutal. And the thing is, Carolina has 3 goalies. Kochetkov, I hope I said that right. He's legit good. So yeah, that's probably a good point. Like the depth is there at goalie, and that's a weird thing to say because it's like, how much depth are you going to have at goalie? Not a lot of like look at Pittsburgh last year in the playoffs. They were down to their third goalie, and that basically cost them the series. So not a lot of teams have a third good goalie. Carolina's one of those few teams. That kind of sucks for us, I guess. But um, yeah, this is gonna be a fun series. I think this is a fun in the Islander fan perspective. No one else is going to enjoy the series because it's going to be tight checking. It's going to be 2-1. I was saying to my brother, it's going to be like soccer scores.
I just I have a question for you guys. Which team do you think has more pressure to win?
I'm going to say Carolina for sure.
Yeah, I was going to say that too.
They just, I mean, the Islanders are really good at like getting into the playoffs in the exact way that it puts them in the position of like, I don't know, like if we get knocked out in the first round, it's not anybody's worry, but we might just win 3 rounds. For Carolina, they're really, I think at this point, very much battling the choker allegations, which sounds way worse when I say it. But I gotta be a young Gen Z kid and say things that are hip. But yeah, no, Carolina, there's a lot of pressure. No Svechnikov, so there's added pressure on the role. The other guys. I like I said, Nikas is going to have a big series. Can Sebastian Aho shut down Sebastian Aho? Keep an eye on that, just for the knees. But yeah, this is a team that's had our number. This is also a team that tends to win in the first round and then choke in the second round. This year, I feel like they're going to be labeled complete frauds if they lose to us in the first round. So that's why I feel like there's more pressure on them. If we lose in the first round, people are going to be like, well, yeah, I mean, they were a decent team. Carolina's a team that for a couple of years has had cup expectations. I don't know if that's the case this year. Just it feels like they're a very good team, but that they will get beat by somebody.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I was just thinking about the Islanders. If they lose in the first round, they probably give it one more go next year. And if they get a similar result, is that the end of the score pretty much? I don't really know.
I'm very curious to see if we bring back Scott Mayfield. He's a pending free agent. I do think we bring back Semyon Varlamov.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird? Because they, like we talked about, they would have traded him at the deadline if they actually like were done with him. And I think he's going to come back at a discount. He's been making 5.5. I think he knows he's been making more than a backup makes. And he was the backup this year. This was the first year he was straight up the backup, and not a 1A, not a 1B. He was the backup. And I think he's going to make backup money next year, which is going to be good for us because we're going to have to find a way to get a little bit better offensively while also figuring out our bottom pair defense. Because with whatever happens with Mayfield on the left-hand side, I think Romanov has earned his top 4 role. It's going to be like, can we improve from Sebastian Aho, or are we going to be cap strapped and just need to hope that either Aho, Salo, maybe Bolduc, or Wotherspoon, one of those guys just grabs that spot. I think because we're a little bit cash strapped, that it's probably going to be hoping for one of those guys to break out. Yeah. So we do have some interesting NCAA signings that could replace Mayfield, but they just played their first professional games for Bridgeport the other day, and they looked good. So that's good. But I knowing the Islanders, I don't think they would just throw rookies into it like that. I think the Islanders are going to try to bring back Scott Mayfield. And if they don't, I think Barry Trotz is going to bring him to Nashville. Makes sense because, he's from St. Louis, so it's like closer to home, and Nashville could use another defenseman. So, and it's Barry Trotz. Can Barry take Josh Bailey, please?
Yeah, please. That helps us.
Yeah, he was gonna be my player to watch in the playoffs, Josh Bailey.
Watch him up in the.
Yeah.
I don't want to watch him not play a dick because he played the other day.
I know.
I think that was a questionable decision. I think that's the easy decision for a coach is to be like, oh, he's got experience. It's a big game experience. And for me, I think it would have been a bolder but a better decision to play Simon Holmstrom didn't end up mattering too much. Bailey did not do anything that like hurt the team too badly. So that's that. Samuel Bolduc did that all by himself.
Well, I mean, to prove your theory incorrect, Josh Bailey is a +3 on this plus-minus score for this season, for the whole season.
Shit.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, that means he was an instrumental player for the entire team.
He's great.
Absolutely.
We would have had
Correct.
3 less goals on the season if it wasn't for Josh Bailey. Think about that. Think about that for a second, Tom. Okay.
Do you guys want to what tell me a little bit about what you're thinking going into the Carolina series? What chances do you give us? Should we do our percent chances here?
Yeah, sure. Mine's kind of more surface deep. I would say optimistically we have I was gonna say 40. Yeah, I'll stick with 40% chance now of winning against Carolina. I don't know how many games I would go. It'd probably go like all 7. Because it's completely biased because of Carolina's record in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
It's not really based on anything other than that. It's not based on how good I think the Islanders are, or how good I think Carolina is. It's purely just I'm kind of bought into the narrative that Carolina is going to choke in the playoffs, and I hope that benefits the Islanders.
Mm-hmm.
So that's What do you think, Sterling?
I'm surprised 40 though that you would consider that optimistic. Maybe that gives away what I think.
Oh, I guess that's fair. Yeah, I think it's. I mean, I definitely think they have the upper hand. I mean, they had our number in the regular season. I don't know what the regular season, what record was. Do you know off the top of your head? Anybody? You guys?
I think we were 1-3.
Okay,
that makes sense.
Yeah. So, but I mean, again, the playoffs are a different beast, and we'll see. So that's why I think it's just de facto they have to have the upper hand.
That's fair. And look, like we said, they have the bigger expectations. They finished with a great record despite not playing great recently. But yeah, Sterling, what do you got percent-wise? We love our numbers.
Well, I'm picking us to win the series probably because I'm an Islanders fan and not objective. But I'm going to go with 50. I think Matt Barzal coming back is not for sure a game changer. We'll see how he looks in game 1. But I have faith in him transforming Horvat's ability. I think the power play gets going a little bit. And
it can't hurt the power play with Matt Barzal coming back.
Absolutely can't.
Yeah.
I mean, look, if he makes giveaways, that's just what we've been doing anyway.
Exactly.
It's just one more person doing it. And like, honestly, the power play has been just dreadful.
Yeah. But anyway, we won't get stuck on that.
We've watched some bad power plays over the years, but this is probably the worst because we're giving up goals like every time. But anyways, we just need a little bit of power play production because our penalty kill is really good. And, the identity line, it's going to hopefully make a return in game 1 to its playoff action. I swear if Lane goes through with Bailey, Cizikas, Clutterbuck, I know he said Martin will be playing game 1, but that was a big yikes at practice.
Maybe that means Martin's playing over over Barzy. They're just getting everybody's hopes up. No, you know what? We really thought we'd run a line with Anders Lee and Matt Martin.
Yeah. So
it's a test about what the fourth line will look like in a couple of years.
Well, Matt Martin's gonna at that point.
I don't think he's that much older than Lee, is he?
He's not super old, Matt Martin. I just think the style of game he plays doesn't. He's not going to be playing when he's 40.
Yeah, but
Lee will, and Lee will be making $7 million playing with whoever's on the fourth line.
Yeah,
like 45% of my 50 goes to Sorokin playing well. I think he's going to need at least a shutout in this series in order to win. That's my prediction.
I definitely agree. And I think there will be a shutout in the series. There might be 2 because these teams are so good defensively. Man, this is a little bit of a cowardly answer, but I have us literally as I have 49. I think we have a 49% chance to win the series. I think it's so close. But I like I chose 49 to say that I'm picking Carolina, but I very, very, very much believe that we can win the series. I have a few numbers. So I wrote down a few of the key numbers. These are the things that the last few years I've looked at when I've done playoff predictions. I've added a couple of things. So I always did goals for per game, goals against per game, power play, penalty kill. I've added save percentage and penalty minutes. Kind of gauge like how much the special teams are going to affect. So goals for per game. Carolina 3.2. We have 2.95. So, we don't score a ton. Their offense has taken a dip since Svechnikov went out. So, I don't think it's going to be a crazy, crazy difference there, but edge Carolina there. Goals against is almost straight up a tie. 2.55 for Carolina, 2.65 for the Islanders, both elite. Power play. Theirs isn't incredible. They're middle of the pack. They're 19.8%. We're 15.8. We're third worst in the league, which makes sense. Penalty kill. They actually have a slight edge, but they're both very good penalty kills. 84.4 for Carolina, which is just stupid good. And for us, 82.2. So, slight edge to Carolina. So special teams, Carolina has the edge. But in goal, the X factor could be 921 team save percentage for the Islanders. I believe that's second in the league behind Boston. For Carolina, a decent 907. That's going to be big. Like you said, Sorokin is probably the biggest player in the series for the Islanders. Both teams are very good, disciplined teams. Carolina committed the 30th most penalty minutes. So the third least. So they're elite at staying out of the box. We were 24th. We were also good at staying out of the box. They had 614 penalty minutes. We had 656. Good job by the Islanders. I'm looking at Scott Mayfield to continue that in the playoffs. He was our penalty leader in the regular season with 83 penalty minutes.
Wow.
So, this is, to me, it's a 6 or a 7 gamer. It has to be. I have Carolina in 7 at the moment. I think the recent history, Carolina's had a lot of success against us. I think they're one of the few teams in the league that knows how to combat our style of play. And Rob Brindamore is a great coach. I think this is going to be a great series. I think it's going to be a very low-scoring series. Ilya Sorokin could absolutely steal it for us. I'm giving Carolina the slightest edge. The Islanders have not been great on the road this year, and I think Carolina having a home Game 7 could be big for them. It didn't help them last year against the Rangers, but the Rangers have been a good road team the last couple of years. The Islanders are like the rest of the pack on the road. So the Islanders are really, really going to be looking, if we can grab one of the first two. This is what you always say in a playoff series as the team playing on the road. But if you get one of the first 2 games and you hold serve at home, you're up 3-1. So that's the game plan. Obviously, take it one game at a time. That's what they did down the stretch since they were basically playing playoff games already. So that might help. The fact that the intensity level for the Islanders has had to be very high. Carolina's also has been fairly high because they've been fighting for the division. But I think it's different to play for your whole survival rather than seeding. So, So I think we're all in agreement that this is going to be a very tough series for both sides. And I think I think everybody would tell you that. And maybe 1 or 2 people would say Carolina, based on their history against us, will beat us easy again. But I don't know. I think this Islander team is rounding into form at a good time.
Yeah, actually, I think it was Marchand on the Bruins was talking about nobody really cares about the President's Trophy or breaking the all-time record. He's like, but we had to play for something, once we clinched, and then once the Bruins clinched, and then once the Bruins secured the first seed, they were like, he said we literally had to play for something. So I'm in the back of my mind, I'm like, wouldn't it just be wonderful if they just lost the first round because they just didn't have to care the last 10 games or whatever, you know? So it's
That's a
obviously
good
not going to
point.
happen, but it
I'm
was
glad you
like
brought that up though,
be a
because
dream come true.
that shows how these teams that have already clinched, you got to set a goal. There needs to keep the intensity up, and whether it's home ice or winning a division or setting a record. I think coaching plays a big part into that. Like, do you like? I think it shows a lot of how much the players have bought into the coach, that they're still playing really hard when things don't necessarily matter too much. So I'm sorry, Winston's barking. For Boston, I'm forever grateful for them continuing to play pasta, because he might have won me my fantasy championship. I am up 14 points, and JT Compher is the only guy the other guy has left. So Compher needs to put up a hattie and then some. So I just want to point that out. But yeah, yeah, I'm glad you pointed that out. That's an interesting idea. Sometimes with how guarded these players are, you don't get like a look into the psyche. And I think that's really interesting to hear that from the Boston perspective. We're so good. How do we stay invested?
Yeah, literally. It was shocking to read. But I mean, at the same time, like, they're a history making team. So, they probably have the right to have a bit of a chip on their shoulder.
Yes.
But yeah, sorry. What do you think, Sterling?
I cannot see this Boston team choking. I think they could lose early. Like, I could see them losing to Tampa in round two, but nothing like 2019. Obviously, they have the veteran leaders that Tampa had a few guys, but not too much. They're way more physical than that Tampa team was. In fact, that's how Tampa won their cups, was by getting physical guys. Vasilevsky was obviously, he's an amazing goalie. Didn't have a great performance in the playoffs, but they have Swayman, their backup. I just checked, has a 920 save percentage on the year, which is unbelievable. There's like, to me, I don't see a weakness in them. I think the only way they lose is in a hard fought series with an amazing team like Tampa, which unfortunately for them could happen around two.
Yeah, and like you said, I don't see any weaknesses. The coach, this is not a first time head coach. This is his first year with Boston. What a job! Oh my God! And there's too many veteran players who have seen a little bit of everything on this team for me to think I give them a 99% chance to beat Florida. Florida has shown a lot of guts. The way that they were able to get in, Alex Lyon playing crazy well. They score a ton, Florida. So like the depth is there. It's a tough matchup. Florida, I think they're going to be kicking themselves for not beating Carolina the other day. And because I did not want to play Boston. I think Boston's happy that we're not playing them either, because I think it would have been a tougher series for them. I have Boston in 5. I like generally don't pick sweeps. So, because I give credit, like every team that makes the playoffs is capable of winning a game in the playoffs. I have Boston in 5 in that series. The defense is, there's no weakness. They have 2 starting level goalies. They have the best tandem in the league at the moment this year. Every move they made in the offseason has worked out. The defense is fantastic. Pavel Zacha just turned into like a fantastic player this year. Hampus Lindholm, amazing for them. They're so deep, such a deep team. Yeah, I have them. I mean, the bracket as we film this video is not complete because we don't know the Central Division yet outcome. I have Boston in the Cup in the East. Not a hot take, obviously. I have Toronto beating Tampa. I have flipped on that back and forth a few times. Tampa, you give them the intangibles, you probably give them the goaltending edge, but defensively, Toronto has done great work. A few years ago, they were a team that scored a lot and gave up a lot. They have really been a good defensive team the last couple of years. Their PK is good. Their power play is great. Toronto has been through so much. If they don't win, I think I said this last year too, but if they don't win this series this year, straight up, there has to be a seismic trade. Like you got to trade Nylander. Something has to give. Like if this core can't, because on paper they should win. I think the series. I think Tampa Bay looks really in flux to me right now. They started Vasi a bunch this week. They didn't have to. I think it was to try to get him going before the playoffs, and it backfired. They did not play well this week. They gave up a lot of goals. They've given up a lot of goals recently. We put 6 on them. The New York Islanders put 6 on you. That's not good. So yeah, I got a lot of worries about this Tampa team.
Oh my God! Just holy! I didn't realize how correct you were on that. So Tampa shut out the Islanders back on April 1st. You know, 5-0. But then since then, the Rangers scored 6 on them. The Islanders scored 6 on them. Ottawa scored 7 on them. Toronto scored 4 on them, and then Tampa to close out the season shut out the Red Wings 5-0. But so they went on a 4-game losing streak where they were just like
leading goals,
weren't playing defense.
Yeah. So
to be fair, Islanders and Ottawa both were Brian Elliott, who's sub 900. So it's not all that sauce.
Yeah. I just didn't. I'm not seeing the urgency in their game that I'm accustomed to seeing. I know maybe that's because like they're a veteran group. They feel like they can just turn it on once the playoffs start. I think they did that last year, and they could absolutely win the series. They have just turned it on before. For me, this feels a little bit different because some of the quotes from John Cooper about the goals they've given up recently tell me that he's more worried about this than maybe in the past few years. Yeah, I don't. I'm not very high on Tampa in this postseason. Yeah, so I picked Toronto last year. I have picked Toronto like 3 years in a row.
Trying to pay your dues as an Islander fan to get in good with the Tampa fan base.
It's just it's weird. Like it's kind of like they're too good to continue to lose like this, right? They're a real good team. But it feels like if man, there are going to be changes if they lose this series. The GM is probably gone. Head coach might be gone. One of the main stars of this team might be gone. There's a lot of pressure on Toronto. There's a lot of pressure on Toronto, maybe even more so than on Tampa, which is weird to say but Tampa's they've won their cups. And like, I'm not saying they're going to be entitled and not show up. I just wonder, this happened with the Kings a while back. When you play a lot of playoff hockey, sometimes it kind of all comes crashing down at once. That happened to the Islanders last year, I think. Islanders play a lot of very intense playoff games and then don't make the playoffs in a year and then come back the next year. So Tampa Bay, maybe this is their off. I get a weird sense that this is going to be their off year. And I don't think Tampa Bay is going to make like sweeping changes if they don't win this year. But I think Toronto has more pressure, but I think they're going to use that to their advantage. Famous last words, because you would have thought they would have done that last year or the year before that, or the year before that. So the Devils Rangers series, I think, is going to be incredible TV. I'm so hyped for that. Oh wait, but I want to hear quickly. What do you think, Toronto Tampa? Who do you got?
I mean, basically the same. Like I would. Okay, so I'm going to pick Tampa again because of Toronto's. I don't see Toronto turning around. Like it just in the playoffs, I don't see them turning around based on their record. Obviously, yes, on paper, like you said, it makes total sense that they would have a really good shot at winning the series. But I don't know, just everything. I don't know. So much changes in the playoffs. Like I got to kind of. I guess I'm more biased to like previous year playoff performance rather than the regular season performance, unless obviously the whole core changed or like they had a blowout season. But yeah, so yeah, I'm going with Tampa in that one.
And what about Boston, Florida?
Oh, that's a hard one. Yeah,
specifically, how many games will it take for Boston to destroy Florida?
I'm just so happy we're not playing Boston. I think I couldn't care less in a sense. But yeah, so I mean, I would be surprised if Boston took more. I would be surprised if it went to 6. So I would have to say the same as Tom, 5 games for Boston to win that series.
I think if Florida pushes it to 6, that's a huge win.
Like, yeah, that's a moral victory.
I think people will give a lot of respect if they're able to push that to 6. Hell, I mean, they're in the one of the best positions, which is like completely nothing to lose.
Hmm.
That's great. I mean, like no one expects them to win this series. No one's going to pick them to win this series. Nobody picked Columbus to beat Tampa a few years ago. Look, um, it is the playoffs. Nothing is impossible. I think this is probably the most confident I've ever been in a pick in picking Boston in 5. But man, playoffs. I love the NHL playoffs. You just never know.
Yeah, I share Boston in 5. Florida has no first round pick, I believe, until 2026. So they can't really do moral victories right now, which is unfortunate given their matchup. I think Alex Lyon had a tough last game, but if he plays, maybe he gets them a win, but no way to. I think Mark Stahl's going to get destroyed in this series. But the more interesting one, Tampa, Toronto. This one, I'm going with Tampa in 7, partly because of the meme. But in all seriousness, I guess since 2021's performance, I'm just not going to choose Toronto ever until they prove me wrong and that they can win a series and not choke. I mean, they didn't really choke last year, but whatever. I think having Samsonov and Murray in that, regardless of their regular season performance, it's a question mark for me. And Tampa, I think, yeah, they've been really bad as of late, but some a perspective I've been looking at it through is they've just went to 3 cup finals in a row. Maybe this is their way of resting guys before making another run. Is just, we know we're in. Let's step off the gas for a bit and get ready. Also, last year they looked terrible game 1, and they still found a way to do it. So I have no faith in Toronto, and hopefully for their fan base they get it done. Because if I was a Toronto fan, oh boy, that'd be tough. But before moving on, we do have to give a quick shout out to the legend John Tavares.
Yeah.
I was kind of indifferent on him since he left after year 1, but now I have to like him again. He's the only reason we're playing Carolina right now for scoring an OT. So thank you very much, John.
Yeah. No, that was hilarious. And like I'm look, being a sports fan, it's supposed to be fun. So I am okay with like the Toronto fans who were able to get their jokes in about, I guess you do need them. And it's like, yes, yeah, we absolutely did. Because the Islanders definitely needed some help getting in. So yeah, absolutely, that was a big part of it. Yeah. And the last series, I'll be really quick. I've talked a lot. Rangers, Devils. I think this is going 7. I think this is going to be such a great series. These are the best series to watch, are the ones that I know are going to be super intense, but I don't have a rooting interest, so I don't have to be stressed. I mean, I guess if you're thinking like, if you really think the Islanders are going to win round 1, very interesting to play one of your metro area opponents in round 2. Haven't played the Rangers since '94. So, and they historically annihilated us. So, man, the possibility of Islander Ranger playoff series, the world could end. Like that could be the last straw. That could cause nukes to fly and everything
between Manhattan and Long Island.
Yes. I'm gonna go to Westchester. So
upstate, as they say.
Yes. I am going to give a very slight edge to the Rangers. I think the Rangers have earned the benefit of the doubt. Last year, I know Pittsburgh was a little bit handicapped in goal, but the Rangers really, really made a good push against Tampa and beat Carolina. And I know Carolina, the choke artist thing, but Carolina's still a good team. The Rangers went into Carolina and eviscerated them in Game 7. I know Chris Kreider didn't put up like 60 goals this year or whatever, but he's still a good player. They have a really good, like an unbelievable amount of depth scoring now with Patty Kane and Tarasenko, and like, the kid line has been good for them. I think they're such a deep team, and I think the deciding factor for me is the goaltending. Vanacek's been real good this year, but Shesterkin is like he can be next level. He can be the best goalie in the league. And Vanacek, well, he's been great, and I think he's been a great story this year, and it shows that it was more Washington being a wreck last year, that Samsonov and Vanacek both left that team and turned into good goalies. Yeah, I have the Rangers very, very, very slightly based off playoff experience plus goaltending. What do you guys think?
Certainly, why don't you go first?
I think both of these teams are on major fraud alert to me. And I think whoever wins Islanders Hurricanes is going to the conference final.
Right.
But I do have to choose one, and I'm going with the Rangers. I mean, that one hurts, but like the Devils, I hate them too, so whatever. I think the big difference for me, like you mentioned, is in net. And I am a fan of the Rangers' top players more so than the Devils' top players. It was fun for a while to say like, oh, Tarasenko and Patrick Kane, they're not really fitting so well. Well, I think they're gonna fit well come playoff time, and I think they're gonna find a way to beat Vanacek more often than not, and especially if Blackwood comes in. So I think you talked about our series a bit too and gave your prediction. Just to put mine out there, as a bias fan, I say we're going to take this one in 6 because weirder things have happened with the Islanders the past few years. And we've already talked about the series. But at the end of the day, Sorokin, hopeful increase in power play, and hopefully lockdown defense gets the job done for us.
Yeah. I don't know if I said how many games, but I have Carolina in 7.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I have had like a weird I haven't done this on purpose, but I feel like every time I've picked against the Islanders the last few years, I've picked the other team in 7 because I know better. Like, I don't think this is like this Islander team does not get rolled. Even the Carolina series from Trotz's first year where they got swept, they lost the first game 1-0 in overtime. They lost the game at home on a really bad no-goal call on Devontae's. That was a closer series than it looked. There was only one blowout. They got blown out in the elimination game. So yeah, I give this Islander team credit. I don't think this is an Islander team that like will get swept. Play that in a week from now after game.
Yeah. This will in 1 week it will be game 4 and we'll be the Islanders will have be facing elimination.
Will not have scored a goal in the series.
Yeah. But for Devils Rangers, I on principle, because I will never say the Rangers should win anything, is the Devils will win.
What if it was the biggest loser competition? Or I hate the team the most competition.
No, this is making my head explode. No, I actually do think I've watched a little bit more of the Devils this season. I love watching them. I really enjoyed watching them play, and they're so fast and like they're great. So I'm biased, and I'm accepting that bias, and I'm outputting that bias. So the Devils are going to win. I think. I have no idea how many games. I'm just going to go with a safe bet and say 6. But yeah, I want the Devils to win. But it would be, that being said, I would love to see an Islanders Rangers playoff series. I mean, that would be at this point, once in a lifetime thing for me.
Yeah.
I don't know if my heart could take that, honestly.
I would be so scared of ever going to a game like that, but watching it would be one of the most exciting things.
That's a good point. We'll meet up somewhere safe.
yeah, in neutral territory, somewhere like on the other side of the country.
Yeah, we'll go to San Francisco to watch the games.
Yeah. So, but yeah,
you guys don't have ESPN Plus, shit. We flew all the way out here.
Wait, are the playoff games possibly broadcast on ESPN Plus?
Oh, they'll all be on like TNT. Oh, actually, I think the first round, some of the games are on they're all like MSG, right? Like
I think so, yeah.
But
then after the first round,
it'll be like TNT.
Yeah, okay.
Although,
so no ESPN or
ESPN will get games.
ESPN Plus or ESPN?
No, just regular ESPN.
Okay, see, that's fine.
I'm flipping to Monday. It doesn't have the channels because they do have the three. We know that we're playing game 1 on Monday.
Yeah.
So, all right, I have to eat dinner. I'm very hungry. But are there any closing things that we want? Do you quickly want to just say what your cup's going to be? Since we don't have the West bracket, maybe you could just throw a team out there that you think's going to win the West.
Yeah.
All right. This is probably going to be out there. Boston, I think in the East is probably the favorite, and I think has the best shot, obviously. And Edmonton, I would like to see that as a final. Yeah,
And they're going in scalding hot.
Connor McDavid has 151 points or something insane like that.
Yeah,
and then
53. Yeah,
153. Like that's just insane.
And Leon Draisaitl might be the second best player in the league.
He is. I was looking for his points right now. He's like 130 something.
Yeah.
And then the next best is who is it?
Nikita
Kucherov, right?
Oh, sorry. Are you talking like just across the league?
Yeah, across the league. Sorry.
David Pastrnak, I might be at 3.
Why can't I find their player stats? I'll find it anyway. Oh, I found it. That was fast. Yeah, so Connor McDavid 153, Leon Draisaitl 128. But let me find the actual best next player. Anyway, sorry, Sterling. What do you think? Well, I'm vamping here.
Had like 106 or something.
It was a big drop off.
Well,
wait, sorry. Are you talking about Edmonton?
Oh, I was just talking about league wide.
Okay, yeah. Let me find
Edmonton, that. Nugent Hopkins, I believe, passed
104. He's at right now. I'm looking at it.
3 players with over 100 points for the first time since 95-96.
Damn.
That's
awesome.
Oh, but Sterling, yes. What do you got, Cup?
Well, before I go, James, who's your Cup winner in that?
I mean, I have to say Boston, but I wouldn't want it to be Boston. So,
yeah. So I'm gonna go with coming out of the East, Tampa. I think they beat Boston round 2. I also see a world where they get destroyed by Boston, but whatever. And then coming out of the West, I really want to pick Edmonton because I love watching them, but I still don't know about their goaltending. Stuart Skinner's only getting hot now, which is good that it's going into the playoffs, but I don't know how sustainable that is. Even with the injuries, I'm going to go with Colorado. I do like Georgiev in net, and I mean, they have no reason, at least I have no reason to think they're not going to perform well. And this time in the rematch, I think Tampa Bay gets their 3rd cup in 4 years, and everyone is sad, and it's a tough ending.
All right.
3rd cup in 4 years. That's
yeah. So for me, I'm really tempted to go really outside of the box. There's a team in the West that I think is being slept on a little bit. I like goaltending in the playoffs. Okay, so I got Boston winning the East. Already said that earlier. Boston's going to win the Cup. So even before we see who the Western team is. But, oh my God, I can't believe I'm saying this because this is a team that also known for kind of not going anywhere in the playoffs. The Minnesota Wild. Their goaltending has been 3rd best in the league. They have a .919 team save percentage. They're good defensively. They have good special teams. They could use a little bit more offense. But the West is so wide open. I think Edmonton is a good pick. Hot at the right time. Got the best player in the world. The goaltending is finally maybe getting there. I was also the other team I was kind of up and down with. Dallas. They might have the best goalie in the Western Conference in the playoffs in Jake Ottinger. I mean, Connor Hellebuyck can always steal series too. But I'm gonna freaking God, am I picking the Wild? I also Colorado, I think, makes a lot of sense too as a team that's just been there, done that. Man, I am going to pick the Minnesota Wild to go to the Stanley Cup. I'm a lunatic moron.
No, Tom. No, you're really smart. We all love you. All right, let's end this podcast.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys for being on. This is, I think, my favorite episode of the year. I mean, it's just I love the
It's so
playoffs.
fun. Yeah.
There's so much to talk about. The Islanders, of course, getting in such a dramatic way. Man, lot to talk about today. A lot of fun. Thank you guys for watching, and thank Sterling and James for being.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
All right, guys. I'm
Tom,
gonna.
you never wave in unison. Bye. All right. Thank you. All right.